Hello and welcome to Insight. I'm Elizabeth Omori. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu recently signed the student loan bill into law to enhance higher education for indigent students in Nigeria. This is designed to address financial constraints that hinder many students from gaining higher education and will provide interest-free loans to those in actual need. This law will have a significant impact on Nigeria's educational system, and it could potentially extend to sectors like technology and finance. How did this bill come into existence? What is the process? What are the legal implications of not paying back? How can Nigerian students utilize this to foster economic growth and education? We will dissect these as we progress on the program. Dealing with discarded plastic is bad enough, but when it starts to break down, the real problem begins. More than 400 million tons of plastic is produced every year worldwide. An estimated 19 to 23 million tons end up in rivers and seas. To address the problem, governments, companies and other stakeholders must be proactive to solve this crisis. Bearing in mind the harmful effects of plastic waste, we decided to recall a conversation on this issue. So, welcome to Insights.
I'm fascinated with the discourse on national monuments and assets and how much is being done to preserve and
look into the language issue. We have turned English to become like a pride value in our own cultural values.
National cash transfer is not a COVID-19.
Invasion 1897 was a deliberate
many of these people coming to the urban areas now.
These and applications, there are terms and conditions that
of course it is the union of two people, a man and a woman coming together.
My name is Nnamdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori.
Their educational deprivation is not the end of the world.
Agencies and stakeholders to proactively tackle these challenges.
Women in most countries of the world constitute about 50% of registered voters.
Kevin Williams reporting for Dateline 360.
In Jos, Caleb Gochin, Dateline 360.
Dateline 360. Shidi Okrafo.
For Dateline 360.
In Lagos, Michael Olaleye.
Reporting for Dateline 360.
I am Omosola Omojola. Thanks for tuning in.
The student loan bill is a piece of legislation that aims to improve the rate of higher education in Nigeria by reducing financial constraints. With a law in place, students can now apply for this loan and use it to fund their higher education. My guest, Professor Nuhu Yakub, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, will speak to us on this latest development by the Tinubu administration. Prof, thank you so much for joining us on Insights.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for inviting me.
Now, sir, let's start with an assessment of the signed bill. Would this be a step in the right direction or otherwise?
Indeed, it is a step in the right direction because, education, it's not only vital, but it appears as if it is also faced with several challenges, one of which is underfunding and the fact that, a lot of students coming to university or higher education institutions these days are actually coming from a poor background, and it is important for equity and also encouragement of those who are finding it difficult to actually access higher education to be able to rely on an instrument that at least will enable them to acquire their higher education.
Interesting. Now, has Nigeria tried implementing this loan before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it has been tried. It was actually tried during the regime of Yakubu Gowon, when he introduced the student loan scheme. And, it was a period that was about 1972-73. And at that time, the country was even awash, with, petrodollar. You could say that there was a lot of money. But even at that point, there were students. There were many students in the tertiary school institutions that could not afford, higher education. And it was quite important, for them. In fact, one of the graduates that our undergraduates in the school during that period, who went through, in fact, he said they were approaching. He was a student at University of Lagos. They were approaching the final year. Sorry, not final year. The end of session examination, and the school authorities started chasing them around. Those who did not, who had not paid their school fees, will have to be denied the opportunity of sitting for their exams. And the students also took the right step by going on demonstration. And that was what actually triggered off, the idea of setting up the loan scheme by the Yakubu Gowon administration. And it came at the right time, not only for the students in the University of Lagos, but, at that point we had not more than 5 universities all over the country, and they were all federal universities. So it triggered off, this reaction or response from government that could be considered to be very positive, in the sense that it enabled quite a number of students whose parents could not afford to pay their school fees to have the loan. How much was it even then? The loan was graded into hundreds of 300 naira, 400 naira, and 500 naira, and they were able to access this. And then too, there was a period when feeding in the university was so cheap. I remember when I was in the university in the 70s too. We used 5 kobo to to have our breakfast. Lunch and dinner will cost you 10 kobo each. So a student with 300 naira or 400 naira loan or 500 naira loan was able to not only pay school fees, but also to buy books, and use part of this money to also meet their needs. For instance, clothing items, and and life was actually very easy and simple then. But this one that is that has just been signed, I understand the upper level is just 18,500 naira, and 18,500 naira, even if that is the fee that each school will charge. What about accommodation? What about feeding? Transportation? What about buying books? Things were actually relatively easy in the 70s, and that was why students were able to understand that also then. Was fantastic. So, but I think the point that has to be stressed is that if this education loan is properly administered, and it goes to those who require, especially for this one, an indigent student should prove that their parents are not earning up to 500,000 naira.
That brings me to my next question.
Yes.
Because the law states that applicants' income or family income shall be less than 500,000 per annum to be eligible. How can this be determined? Well,
it's a question of they are required to bring a guarantor, and at the same time, they also required the support, or to hire a lawyer who will stand, for them. But what is important, more crucial, is the question you ask: how are we sure that the right or the indigent students will actually get access to this loan? It's a pity that we now have a society where values of honesty and integrity are not the coins of the day, unfortunately. So it is going to be, a Herculean task. What I think government can actually do it by also, setting up committees or a very sound, disbursing agency that will also have, they will have branches, of those. I'm trying to say that, because in each state now, each state has, if not federal university, they have state universities, and this is meant for public universities at the moment. And what the government will want to do is to set up, agencies or maybe zonal offices that will to administer these loans. And when it gets to particular institution, those who are handling particular zone should be able to go to the campus, identify those who are in terrible need of assistance or this loan to be able to afford their education. And they should also be able to, follow up the students to their elbows. It doesn't really, it will not cost much for students to say, okay, my parents are not earning up to the 500,000 naira per annum. And if you want to verify it, let's go to my house. I don't think it's anything that calls for a feeling of despondency and so on and so forth. If it was in the 70s, people, were reasonably honest, reasonably, in possession of integrity, and people will come out and say, I do not, have the means. And there is evidence to prove this, that they do not have the means. I'm afraid to say that the trust issue is a very serious problem for Nigerians.
All right. A survey conducted in 2022 revealed that in England, students graduate with an average loan debt of over $54,000. Do you foresee such in this case?
Well, if we go back also to history, the loan scheme that was introduced during the Gowon era was to a certain extent also abused. It was abused in the sense that even then, there was no problem that the current, generation of students face, which is unemployment. People who are graduating from the universities at that point, and jobs, not multiple jobs will be waiting for them and to grab. But, some people who get the job, they had actually enjoyed the loan, and it became, a problem for them to repay. But I think there could have also been a loophole in the management of the funds then. Did the government actually put in place a very strong body to monitor these students? Was trust also provided to the universities to not to the universities, to places of work where these loan beneficiaries will go and will take up job. And if this was done, then it will become the responsibility of the place of work to ensure that a student on loan is forced to pay in the sense that by the time they are collecting their salary, the quantum of repayment that is required will have been taken from the salary before it is paid out to them. I think what is required is have agencies that are efficient, that are accountable, so that these loans will be recovered and will be made available to the next beneficiaries.
It means they already have debt profiles before graduation.
Yeah. Well, as you said, America, is one country that, is also faced with that problem. But in their own system, because of national identity number, which we also have now.
Name.
It is very easy for people to be tracked. It is just important for government to ensure that because before a job is given or somebody will take up a job, all these identification instruments are there to check where they are, and it can also even lead to where they reside. So they can be monitored, and this thing can be recovered efficiently and seamlessly.
Seamlessly. So it means we need to strengthen our surveillance,
Yeah.
our data surveillance rather.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the funding for the initiative, I understand, is diversified. Are there legal implications? Should there be a default in paying back?
We have the geopolitical zones. These ones, we can decentralize. The authorities should not just reside in Abuja or any other center that may be choosing to operate this, but that we can decentralize it to specific geopolitical zones and now ask, and also recruit people who are efficient, dedicated, transparent, and accountable. I think this if we can get this, in place, I think the level of the difficulties we are imagining could be reduced to the barest minimum. I'm not going to say that this thing will not create some problems. That is in terms of recovering the loans, but we can reduce it to the barest minimum.
To the barest.
Yes.
All right, Prof, there's no doubt that this initiative is laudable, but do you see it enhancing the entrepreneurial skills of Nigerian students? And I ask because you have been in the sector for some time.
Everybody cannot be entrepreneurs. Some people want to be philosophers. Let them just go and read philosophy. Let them go and read, courses that, they will make them to be critically, minded. They can come up with ideas. Let's look at some examples from the U.S. Bill Gates never got any degree, but he's, world famous entrepreneur. You also have, others. Steve Jobs that set up Apple, industry, who is even late now, also didn't finish his educational system. I think that enough leeway should be given to our students. Let them go to school or access higher education if they so wish, in a manner that will give them creativity, that will give them, that will, force them to be more creative. And in the process of doing that, they will be able to get people. It's not the president, Tinubu, that is saying he's not an expert in everything. All he does is to identify those who have the expertise. And you will now hire them, make use of them to achieve the goals, which are credited to him, especially when he was governor of Lagos State. So it is that kind of, leverage you allow people who have the knowledge. Not everybody should go and do the same thing. I simply oppose, and that's why, we now have, agencies of regulation in the education sector, NUC, giving, one particular, program. Everybody must do this. No. That's not what is done. The American education system is what is called liberal education. I went to America, when I went as a Fulbright scholar, taught in a university. Some of my students, I'm a political scientist, they were attending my classes. And I just, in a class one day, I asked, what is your career prospect? And a number of the students, almost half of the class, I was restricted to take only 24 students into my class. Half of them said, either engineering, or they are going to read the medicine, or they will go into agriculture. Yet, they have broad knowledge of what is political science, and I'm sure it is the same thing in sociology, in addition to, what they are actually, trying to prepare themselves for career-wise. So I think that for going forward, especially with the new government now, we should be thinking of how we liberalize our educational system, enable students to freely choose what they want to do. If somebody wants to go and read philosophy, he wants to be a philosopher, leave him or leave her. If somebody wants to go and read, woodwork, let them just go and do that. And then those who are interested in entrepreneurial studies, they will also take to their field. And at the end of the day, you have diversity in the type of graduates you are producing. And these are the ones that some of them, what they will require is ability to access loans. And they come up with a very original idea of what kind of product they want to go and set up. And this is what is the example, the examples I have cited from America. These people did not even finish, even Zuckerberg. Yeah, he also didn't finish his university education. So we have, examples to draw from instead of pushing everybody to go into the class. Oh, we are studying entrepreneurship, meaning what? No, we should actually try to liberalize our education system.
Prof, I appreciate your sincerity on the issue of entrepreneurship, but really, will this move help us solve some of the problems we have in the sector? For example, illiteracy.
1.08 trillion naira has been set aside for education. What is the percentage of that vis-a-vis the entire budget? It's only 5.3%. The UNESCO, advisory is that every country, particularly the underdeveloped countries, which category Nigeria is, they should spend nothing less than 26% of their annual budget on education. And if you are they're putting a paltry sum of, a percentage of 5.3, in education, we are really far away from the goal, and that creates its problem, which has been manifesting, especially as last year, when university staff were on strike for 8 good months. 8 good months, students could not go to the classroom, teachers could not do their research or go to teach, and as you expect that the goals of education will be achieved, it's going to be very, very impossible. So I will urge government, especially now that we have this new loan scheme, as much as possible, make this loan scheme available, accessible, and also put in place a mechanism to recover these loans as they are given out to students.
Yes.
But more importantly, let us try to jack up very seriously and very fundamentally and very revolutionary, the amount of money that goes into the education sector. If we don't do that, I'm afraid we'll still be talking about this problem of lack of either quality or lack of the resources. Lack of the manpower that this country actually requires to be considered a developed. Seriously, modernizing the economy. If you look at the students of these days, they take more courses, especially at the secondary school level, before they can get their WAEC certificate. Some of them are doing beyond 9 courses. That is the minimum. Some 12, some 13. But that in the 60s or even the 50s, a lot of people will just do about 6 or 5 courses, get the requirements for go into the university.
Yes.
And they do go there to excel. They come back. And of course also the kind of problems we are faced with at the moment were not there then. No strike. There was relatively adequate funding of education. Because I also had a professor, Professor Onoge, who was a very famous sociologist, late now, who said his salary, the salary he was being paid in the late 60s, early 70s, would be enough for him in from his salary in a month, he could afford to go to attend conferences in the US, and the American Sociological Association will invite him, and he will attend even without any sponsorship by the university. So we need to also have a system in place in which the staff are adequately remunerated. There's a need to encourage the staff to actually put in their best. And to do this, funding must actually be handled. Modern engineers, they are coming up. People are innovating. So the education system should look into how this particular young engineers or young innovators, how they have actually come up with their findings or their their ingenuity, and encourage the system should be able to encourage them to perfect what is it. It's the same thing as I mentioned Mark Zuckerberg just now. This guy was the one who set up Facebook. It was about thinking and then the environment was there, and then he also got, maybe ICT experts who helped him to, come up with, these innovations that, we now, everybody globally is now, attuned to. So I think that, what we should take our minds really from this idea of, there is falling standard of education, see to it to see how we can actually, recover some of the innovative ideas that are coming out from the younger generation.
Yeah. Professor Nuhu Yakub, former Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja. Prof, thank you so much for joining us on Insight today, and thank you so much for your thoughts.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Environmentalists say a change of attitude can reduce the volume of plastics entering oceans by over 80% by 2040. Now, more than 800 coastal species are affected by plastic waste through ingestion and entanglement. Considering these harmful effects on humans and animals, we decided to recall a conversation on how to beat plastic waste and save more lives. Let's hear from an expert. Indiscriminate disposal contributes to flooding that causes havoc to the environment. Health of humans and animals die, especially aquatic animals. Considering these negative impacts, many countries are taking measures to beat plastic waste. How have we fared in a nation like Nigeria in this regard? What are the preventive measures in place to beat plastic waste? These are some of the questions President, Association of Environmental Protection and Climate Change expert, Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, will be answering on the program. Air Vice Marshal, thank you so much for joining us on Insight.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Now, this year's theme for the World Environment Day is on beating plastic pollution. How apt is this theme?
Yes, thank you very much. It's very, very apt. It's very, very apt because plastic production is one of the biggest business in the world now. Biggest business in the world. Let me give you an example. It is everybody is a contributor. Now we use about 500 million straws every day. 500 million straws every day. So in every hour, you are gathering straws that can fill about 2,000 trucks. 2,000 trucks. So I say it's the biggest business. So that it contributes about $451 billion US to the US economy in transportation alone, and give them a job of 993 million and direct, and 1.5 million indirect. So it is a very, very big, it's a very, very big problem. Now, coming to Nigeria, every individual in Nigeria generates about 0.51 kilogram of plastic every day, leading to 10 million tons in a year. So this, how do we manage this? Of all this, only about 45% is taken off the streets. And out of this 45%, only 10% is recycled. So if you look at this whole thing, in Abuja here, we have not done very, very well in waste management at all. At all. You are forced to ask yourself, is there really an agency in charge of it? There's no part now, whether the Highbrow area or the hinterland and all, they are all suffering from the same menace of waste management. Plastic is everywhere. I give you an example. If you go to Kabusa area, on the road to Kabusa, it's a dual carriage expressway. One part of the road has been covered with waste, mostly plastics. Plastic, and you don't need to call the central government to come and do that. Where is the municipal government? That's the question. So it's a very, very big problem that we need to solve. And the trade agreement of Europlastic is telling us that since 1950, plastic have increased from 1.5 million metric tons to 396 million metric tons. That's a lot.
Okay, let me come in there.
Yes.
How much of a threat has plastic waste really become for the ecosystem? Because we call it the consequences of our actions.
Yes, it's consequences of our action, and it's also a product of our development. It's a byproduct of our development. It's a very big threat, because the whole plastic now, when we use it, the ocean is the downstream. You have everything ending up in the downstream, and the amount of plastic I told you, that's 1.5 to 9 metric tons. About 1.4 to 12.7 of this one is being poured into the ocean by countries that border the ocean, which we are also corporate. We have about 853 kilometers of the shoreline. So what does it do? Is you are killing the marine, you are killing the aquatic animal, you are polluting the ocean and everything. The most significant part of it is the chemicals that are emitted in the process of making these plastics. These chemicals are very, very harmful. Now, science have shown that they are responsible for prostate, they are responsible for cancer, they are responsible for a whole hell of health hazard, because they sit into the soil, they affect the air, they affect the water. They are also responsible for cardiovascular diseases. So we pay a lot for it, and it's costing a lot every day.
But looks like many people do not really understand the damage, the impact plastic waste creates in the environment. In this regard, how do we increase awareness?
Yes, increasing awareness is just that people must do their job. People must do their job. There are agencies that are giving these responsibilities. Even across Metama and everywhere, you see plastic littering everywhere. In Kigali, it was so marvelous that some children were coming from school. They saw plastic on the ground. They picked it and dropped it in the dustbin. But I ask you a question. If you drive through Metama, through Asokoro, through the central area, is there a dustbin? If I consume things in my car now that I can drop that I can stop and drop it? No. There are agencies for this. See, we must do our job. We must continue to do our job. We cannot continue to wish that we have a better society, a better country, whereby the little responsibility you are giving, you are not doing it. You are not doing it. We have to start with dustbin. Dustbin are strategic places that have to be packed. It's not that we just keep the dustbin there and that's the end. I give you an example. We after a lot of hue and cry, toilets were being constructed. Nigeria is the only country that you construct toilets and face it to the public. The doors are to the public. So if you are entering, everybody knows that you are entering the toilet. You have been across the world. They don't call it toilet again. They call it convenience. They give it the restroom. They give it all fine. When you get in, all the latest newspapers are there. You read it. You read it. Toilet, when you build it, you face the doors is backing the public. It's backing the public, so that when you enter, nobody is seeing you, and it's so walled, that very big wall. So that is just the way we are. As simple as dustbin in the central area, it's not there.
Okay, I know in Japan,
yes,
a child of 3-4 is already been thought not to litter the ground with anything, plastic papers, nothing. But why is addressing the issue of plastic waste a problem in Africa till date? Because you need to go to some African countries.
See, our value system needs to be re-engineered. And you see, you have to get people who have large heart for the job that you are giving to them. It is not just give a job, okay, it's my brother, it's my friend, he comes from my area. No, that's no more anymore. Nigeria have a lot of human resources to do this job. People must be sanctioned. They must be sanctioned. For instance, now we have to create. We have left the plastic management in the hand of the informal illiterates. That is not going to solve the problem. We must form these people into an organized what do you call it, thrift society, so that when they bring in these things, you are able to buy from them. Tax the off-takers. The people that are using this plastic for their trade. Tax them. So the money that is coming from it, you use it to pay.
Those people.
Yeah, to pay these people, buy dustbins and buy everything. And we must also encourage reusables. That is plastic that are reusable. When anybody is coming to any country, that's the beauty you see, the green, the environment, and all. It adds to your aesthetics, and it adds to your value for business. That's your value for business. And again, too, you are able to reduce your head bill. I have a book on it, Riches in the Rubbish. There's a lot of fortune to be made. A lot of fortune to be made inside this rubbish that we are just mismanaging anyway. I told you what it adds to the U.S. economy, and the job and the job that it adds to them. If we kill our ocean, we kill ourselves.
Okay, talking about the benefits inherent, is recycling the only option to managing plastic waste? Because the benefits are enormous if we manage it properly.
See, don't forget, the other time, the UN was canvassing zero waste. They don't even want to see waste ending up in the dump site. Here, our dump sites are so poorly managed that, look, the US, the United Nations is now saying that, look, what do we now do? Let us engage in recycling. There's nothing that does not have a secondary use. Everything that was ever created. Because what are we now doing? You are taking more materials from the ground. You are increasing the environmental degradation. You are taking more electricity to convert it. You are increasing climate change, which is a very big problem now. And here that we are very, very prone to flooding. You create a whole lot of environmental issues and climate issues, which the consequences is what will be. And so what do we now do? Before it gets to where we will manage it, there have to be a policy, plastic policy, very robust plastic policy to deal with it. What do you do with it? There must be companies that, look, this plastic, this is how you manage it. If you produce it, if you produce so and so metric tons of plastic, you pay for it, for the government to be able to recycle it.
Yes.
To recycle it. So if you do that, they will be very, very concerned about what they are doing for their plastic. And our waste selection system has to be separated. The degradable, the biodegradable, and the non-biodegradable. You see, in the process of making plastic, the chemicals, it's not even littering the environment that is the biggest problem. It is the chemicals that is coming from the process of making it. That is where the whole problem is.
All right. In developed countries, so many generate wealth from disposed plastics. And I want to ask again, why are we not being encouraged in this area? Or is the government not really looking into this direction to generate wealth even for the country? Because we have less people doing this business.
There must be a direction. There must be a policy. You see, what is a policy? A policy is an incursion into the future to be able to look at it and make it useful and make that whatever you are creating a policy around to make it very useful. Now, all of us are chasing what we can see now. We are all chasing oil and chasing everything. No, the intangibles is what the whole world is benefiting from. Let me tell you, for example, the toilets in India. That is what Narendra Modi has been using to put people, millions of people out of poverty. Out of poverty. See, the seriousness about us have to be re-engineered. Have to be re-engineered. Policy cannot work itself. It needs people to be able to work it. The institutions are there. They must be sanctioned. There must be sanction for our bad behavior. And again, too, it's not just bad behavior. You must show people where they are going to take this waste to. Where are our dump sites? Our dump site. The dump site must be properly managed. Properly managed. And the recycling must be very, very effective. There is money in intangible, this waste management, plastic management. It's a whole lot of money. You can use it to be pulling people out of poverty every year. Every year. And nobody will disturb government. Nobody. But you must have the right knowledge, you must have the right competence, you must have the right skill.
You know, some countries have already outlawed plastic packaging. What is the position of Nigeria, and are there plans to align with global best practices?
Where outlawing it is an option, But for now, it's a gradual process. It's a gradual process because the replaceable item has not been fully developed to take over for it. So plastic will still remain. Don't forget I told you that it's one of the biggest business in the world. It's a trillion. It's a multi-trillion dollars business. So what you will now do? Let's look for a secondary value for every of the items that we are using. Let's go for paper bags made of paper, and encourage you that in all these supermarkets, if you return your bags, you have an incentive for it. Well, you will use law. Law is good, but you also have to increase your incentive in it. And it is not to say that government is going to pay for it. No, the people that are making it, they are making a lot of profit from it. So that profit should be plugged into the management of the plastic. See, the problem of an iceberg is not what is on top. It's what is below. So we almost beginning to look in that particular direction.
I understand there's a national environmental policy to help prevent predictable environmental challenges. What could be hampering the implementation of this policy?
See, policy is just an intention, an action. Who gives life to it? It's the people that are supposed to make sure that it works. If the institution treat it as just one of those things that should be on the paper, it will not work. It will not work. There's executive order 009 that deals with open defecation. It's there, very potent. If your filling station, you should build a toilet. Church will build toilet. All public institutions should build toilet. We must have a new orientation. We were all feeding on oil before. We have seen now that it's not going to last forever. Countries have left that part. They are moving into a new part. And they are all going into the intangibles. It's intangibles now that is ruling the world. Ruling the world, yeah.
The non-oil sector.
The non-oil sector, yes.
All right. Shouldn't there be a synergy between the government and these companies to find out or to look into how to recycle plastics after usage? Can't we strengthen synergy in this area?
Yes. Well, plastic recycling and manufacture gives an opportunity for synergy and cooperation among institutions and agencies. But there must be coordination, there must be policies to force them into that corridor. The thing about any human being, he wants to be free, he doesn't want to obey anything. But that is why government exists, to put you to obey that, to be in that corridor of obedience. Everybody, the companies and the industries, they all come from abroad, and they saw the way it is managed. But here, somebody will just open a company, and its effluent will be entering into the next river, and people will be drinking it. Nobody says anything. It just goes on. The other day, they will just come and tell you that, okay, so it has affected so many other people. There must be consequence. If you do it, if the consequence is greater than what you can think of, nobody will try it.
Okay. All right, my next question is actually out of plastic waste. You are a climate change expert. Where are we in the journey to zero emission?
The journey?
Yes.
I'm sure you know where we are in the journey.
Well, no, we need to hear from you.
You see, climate change is what is running in the world now.
Mm-hmm.
For us here, the renewable energy is where the world is moving now. Now, the European Union is planning to spend $35 trillion on renewable energy. And because of this now, they are going to increase their materials for making electric vehicle 6 times, and the one for solar power 6 times. Guess what? You are not in the top 6 countries in Africa. You have countries like Tanzania, Guinea, and all. Egypt, they are all there. You see, we really have to do a whole lot of things. We need we need to harvest knowledge, skill, and competence. Close your eyes to your brother. Close your eyes to your sister. Get the right materials to do the job for you. That's what countries across the world they are doing. Climate change, you need people that have large mind for climate change. People that can sit down on the same table with John Kerry, Attenborough, and Al Gore. People that can sit down with the eyeball to eyeball and talk to these people to discuss climate change. It is not that you just, this is my friend, I just brought you, come and sit in this office. It's not going to work. There's so much money in climate change to be harvested, but we are not looking in that direction at all. Starting from renewable energy, that's where the whole world is going. Now we have gas, which is the transition energy. We have the AKK pipeline that we are doing now. I think $2.8 billion US dollar. That is a lot. That is a lot. Looking at the period that we are now, the Ukraine crisis and all, this would have been our harvest period. Our harvest period. So we have a lot of things going for us. And these materials for renewable, do you know where they are so abundant? It's Zamfara State. Zamfara State. It's Zamfara State. It's a lot of it there. Lot of it there. So let's create the environment. Let's source and harvest people with the knowledge, with the mind that can sit anywhere in the world and discuss climate change and discuss the value and discuss the derivables and discuss the consequences, so that the world will listen to them and listen to us. We said, okay, we will do 20% NDC, nationally determined contribution of carbon emission, but unconditionally. The other ones will need assistance. We've been in a UNFCCC since 1994, and we rectified it in 2004. Coming from that long distance, is it commensurate with the impact that we are having now? Not at all. Other countries that came in well after us, you see where they are. If you see the Paris Agreement, Article 6 and 7, what did it say? It allows you to do a lot of funding there. Every year we just go to COP, the Conference of Parties. It is no more activism. It is now knowledge.
You've talked about implementation of policies, attitudinal change, regulation and all that. But really, how do we make our environment cleaner?
The ocean still remains the downstream for the terrestrial waste to end up. These aquatic animals, most of them, they get entangled like the fish net. They ingest most of these things, thinking that it's food. The sea turtle now, you see, most of them are almost going. The whales that are very, very useful for carbon dioxide, taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The whale take about 30 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere every year. So these foreign materials are all killing them there. Environment, sweet environment, when you look at it, even if you are sick, you go to an environment that is well manicured, well taken care of, you will be well. Look, most of the cars that are smoking all over the place around here, what is the policy for them? If a car is above so number of age, it has no business here.
On the road.
It has no business on the road, because we create very, very small. Our contribution to the emission is very small, but the consequence is very, very grave. Now, last year, the flooding was very devastating. This year, they've warned us, because when you have the snow in the northern hemisphere very high, you are going to have flooding here. You see, it's a whole lot of problem which we must begin to unpack and disentangle.
One after the other.
One after the other. It requires people that have the orientation, with the mind, with the knowledge, skill, and competence to be able to do it. And don't forget to just this one. Your agriculture is always being threatened when you have flooding like that, because it creates everything. But the national contingency plan did not adequately take care of the farmers. And the goods of the farmers are very fungible. Very fungible. That means they too is like an ATM to them. When they are crisis, they go there and collect most of these things. So most of all these things summed together, they are all environmental hazards. And you must begin to untangle it and get the people to think in the national orientation that we can make a very beautiful country. Let's go to Kigali and go and look at it. It's a very beautiful country.
All right, Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, I want to thank you so much for enlightening us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm fascinated with the discourse on national monuments and assets and how much is being done to preserve and
Look into the language issue. We have turned English to become like a pride value in our own cultural values.
National cash transfer is not a COVID-19.
Invasion 1897 was a deliberate
You know, many of these people coming to the urban areas now.
These and applications, there are terms and conditions that
of course it is the union of two people, a man and a woman coming together.
My name is Namdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. Inside today. Thank you so much for watching. Love Nigeria. Remain patriotic. We'll see you next week. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Bye for now.